Hi everyone, my name is Lucas Babando and I'm with Mohit Karbanda. We're students in the Graduate Health Information Management course led by Dr. Candace Gibson at Western University. And we're here today with Dr. Burkell, Assistant Dean and Associate Professor at the Faculty of Information and Media Studies. As healthcare becomes increasingly digitized, the analysis of this information harbors potential for both innovative care delivery as well as acts of malice. Dr. Burkell is an information expert and will be talking to us about the nature of privacy with regards to health information. So to start off, can you tell us a little bit about your area of expertise?
So I've been working in the area of privacy for probably 10 years at least, I think. I'm interested in the ways in which people manage their online privacy, how they think about privacy in the online environment, what sorts of practices and expectations they have with respect to their privacy online. I worked a lot with other information studies people, but also a lot with lawyers. And I also do some work about privacy in the justice sector. And so I'm working with lawyers, criminologists, sociologists, talking about privacy regulation. I've done some work with and for the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, looking at what kinds of privacy expectations people have in a social media environment, which is relevant to the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, thinking about the kind of regulation they put on the social media platforms. And so that's a bit about what I do.
Okay. I guess your research is always relevant, but I'm guessing right now, we're hearing the scandals in the news. It's becoming more upfront and I guess more visible, and a lot more people, I think, are thinking about these kinds of issues.
I think that's true. I think so when we started off thinking about privacy online, we were thinking about people's revelation of personally identifiable information that was attached to your name or your email address or your physical address, largely to commercial organizations, but then also what was revealed to governmental organizations. Then things changed. There was a sea change when we got the capacity to collect and analyze behavioral tracking information. So your actions online became a kind of information about you that could be collected, and privacy regulations weren't prepared to deal with this information that wasn't personally identifiable in the traditional way, but still was very much about you. And I think now there's been sort of a third sea change, and that's the use of big data analytics to do predictive analytics over both the information where you've revealed and the behavioral tracking information to allow inference of even more information about the individual, which is even less like the personally identifiable information that we were first prepared to protect, because now it's inferences.
Okay, so very briefly, would you be able to describe the concepts of privacy, security, and confidentiality, and how those are different from each other?
So confidentiality clearly is I offer or somebody has a fiduciary responsibility to me. I've given them, offered them, they hold some of my information, and we need to have an agreement about who gets to see it. And them respecting my confidentiality is not revealing that information, passing it on to anyone that I don't agree to have it go to. Security is clearly about maintaining the boundaries, in the case of online environment, technological boundaries around the sharing of information, that it is not accessed by parties using other than approved avenues, so it doesn't leak, basically. And privacy is, I think, my considerations about what I expect, want, desire with respect to my own information and the information that I consider to be about me. There's a lot of debate about what exactly privacy constitutes. For many people, it would involve control, that I have control over where my information flows. I don't think that's an inappropriate definition of privacy, control over information flow.
So, can you explain what health information is and why it is an increasingly important topic at the moment?
What I think it includes is, obviously, the electronic patient record and anything that could be healthcare records, records of treatments, records of prescriptions. But then there's an awful lot of stuff that's occupying kind of a gray zone right now. Well, you have to throw images in there. Anything that's part of my interaction with the formal healthcare system is clearly health information. But then we've got all of these health apps now that we put on our phone that are tracking all kinds of information about us. And arguably, that's information about my health. Is it formally health information? I don't know.
Yeah, and one of the things learning about health is that health is such a broad and abstract concept that you could conceivably sort of relate a lot of things back to your health.
Yeah.
And I guess with, like you mentioned, with healthcare becoming increasingly quantified over many sort of avenues, it is getting, I guess, like you said, the boundaries are blurring between what is health information, what's not. So
you probably want to draw a distinction between healthcare system information and health information that falls outside of the system, the formal system. And even then, I think you're going to have blurring at the edges. Like, are the records of a pharmacist, say, are the records of a pharmacist of the prescriptions that you've had filled at that pharmacy, are they within the formal bounds of healthcare information or not? That would be a boundary case, I think. Clearly, your particular prescription is your health information, but the fact that it was filled at a pharmacy may or may not be formal healthcare information.
Okay. So what do you think the biggest maybe threats would be to someone who is not so concerned with maintaining privacy of their health information? Is there a risk of identity fraud? Is there something further than that?
There's always a risk of identity fraud if your information gets leaked, I think. And depending on what's in the basket of health information, it could have more or less, greater or fewer implications for identity theft. I would worry more, I think, about discrimination. Clearly, if you think about a move into the commercial realm, there's all kinds of personal health information that you don't want insurers to have access to, or that at least we need to carefully debate whether insurers ought to have access to. So,
Okay.
example, genetic testing for disease. If I'm genetically tested for a disease, is that information that's appropriately shared with my insurer, and do I have a choice about that?
Okay.
We're increasingly having less choice. And clearly there could be implications for me.
Mm-hmm. And so what would be the problem with sort of identity fraud? Like, say someone has access to all of your health information. The first risk that comes to mind would be sort of like just direct to you advertising. But
Well, that's not identity fraud, though, right? Let's be clear. Identity fraud is misrepresentation, and then you'd have to. I think then it comes down to genetics and biometrics, and I think that's still in the science fiction realm. Absolutely, marketing to you is there have been cases that have come forward to the Privacy Commissioner of Canada where, one in particular I recall, where somebody brought forward a complaint about Google because they'd been searching about, I don't know, CPAP machines maybe online, and now suddenly we're getting advertised to them information about advertisements for CPAP machines. So clearly Google had held and was acting on what the individual would consider to be personal health information. It's interesting because what Google was holding is what we know Google always holds, which is the searches, but the content of those searches revealed something, potentially, about the individual on the basis of which marketing was carried out. You certainly are worried, to the extent that we're worried about it ever, worried about marketing, targeted marketing.
Yep.
But I think you also need to worry about price discrimination. That's the insurance issue.
Mm-hmm.
And other sorts of discrimination, I think.
Okay, thank you.